time.
Hello, Yvonne.
Hello, Evie. Good afternoon to you. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Excellent. Great. Well, I'm happy to be here. So, yes,
Me
another
too,
week,
as always.
another saboteur, right?
Yeah, it seems like they
Yeah,
never end, do they?
it's just like never ending. They just keep coming, and we just keep on like, okay, let's dive in. And this week we are diving into exploring I Am Alone through the lens of the hyper-vigilant. Now, this for me, in terms of a personal experience, yeah, not me in any shape or
Me
form.
either, actually. Yes, I think it's very hard to be a hyper-vigilant and a coach because I think by default you are like very wary of um, people, situations, and everything, and it's very hard to trust, and it's very hard to let your hair down. I think that is why we wouldn't have that show up so much.
Yeah.
Uh, Personally, yeah, I have been told many things, but not hyper-vigilant, that's for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. Well,
But
I
I have
wonder though,
worked with
you
people.
say that about coaches, but I do wonder that there may well be coaches out there who do have this hypervigilance, and maybe they have, tamed it or know how to work with it, but it is
True.
very much part of their nature, yeah, or has
That,
become
that
part.
that is true. Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, we are talking about the hyper vigilant. I mean, there is also the vigilant behind it, which it's not like so much of a bad thing as we all know. There is always strengths
Yeah,
in any saboteur. And it's nice to know them so we can harness the strengths and leave the other things that don't serve us behind. But
yeah,
yes, I have worked with hypervigilance, and they are a very, very hard people to work with. Not from any other reason, because they just cannot trust the process easily.
yeah,
So they can't let go easily to let things happen for them.
yeah,
They need to understand every step in order to trust, and that comes with a very lengthy lengthy work, and I don't know if they ever get completely open and relaxed, because that possibly um, goes against their nature. Yeah. But I can see why they would be absolutely alone or feel absolutely alone, because when there is a problem with trust,
yeah,
you really cannot let anybody in, in any form or way.
yeah,
Now,
yeah,
I don't know,
absolutely.
have you worked with anyone that is a hypervigilant?
I, I've racked my brain over this to think, where have I seen it come up? And it's not a saboteur that I can say that I'm familiar with, even having experienced it with other people. However, then I think again, because there are always these different levels of what you're experiencing from somebody, and so do I know people who are like really alert and constantly watching, because it's almost like they don't trust the situation, they don't trust people, they always are kind of expecting almost like the worst thing to happen, so it's like radar, radar, radar. Yes, I definitely have. I've definitely met people like that along the way. I guess that I haven't necessarily spent lots of time in their company to see how that plays out, but I can see how, if that is like a thing for you, that hypervigilance, that intense anxiousness that comes up, and if it's coming up when you're around people, how that, of course, would almost immediately trigger other people and other people's saboteurs, which can then really cause the rub, right? I can see how that would play out, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, it would like sort of set you apart from anyone else, and it is quite an interesting one. I think that like most of the saboteurs are quite self-fulfilling, aren't they? Like they set out to prove to you that you are something, and then they find ways to prove it, and that's how we tend to do things. And when you are hyper vigilant and you are noticing every single detail, at the end of the day, what is going to happen is that you're looking for the worst in people, you'll find the worst in people. You're looking for the worst in the situation, you find the worst situation. And the lie is that, I'm prepared or I'm preparing. But
Yeah.
if you're constantly preparing for the worst, well, 9 out of the 10 times, the worst is going to come find you, because that's what you're looking out for. So yeah, I expect it is like quite um, an existence of loneliness,
Yeah, it's that's such an interesting observation, and just the way that you said it's that the constant looking out for, or the constant expectation of, and of course, then you're literally filtering for those things. You are mentally filtering for all of those dangers, for all of that distrust. Like, if I'm not sure about this person, you will guarantee you will find a reason why. Oh, I knew I was right. I knew I was right about that person, and it could be the smallest, tiniest thing that then signals you. And that state of, like, I just, in my body, I'm like feeling like that must be just a constant state of anxiousness, like, because every person that walks into a room, you're sizing them up and figuring them out. Is there any room for immediate trust, a level of let's try and see, or is it just on guard, on guard, on guard in every situation with every relationship? Because that must be exhausting.
It can be. I expect it is. I don't know. I mean, for people like us, we are absolutely no hyper vigilant. I mean, I don't even know how to start being like this. It does sound like an impossibility. I don't know how I would be able to survive a situation like this. When you're naturally expecting the best in people, it's very hard to think how it would be expecting the worst in people all the time. And the other problem with the the other struggle, or the other challenge with this type of thinking, is that like, you might be meeting people that they are genuinely like 100% ready to be trustworthy and all these things, but they, no matter how many things they do, that you're constantly thinking, why are they being so nice? Why are they, are they really nice? No. There is something, there is an ulterior motive in all the things. So there is no winning. It's what, I said earlier about self-fulfilled prophecies. It's just keeps, you need to find the evidence for what you believe. So
it's like being on red alert 24/7. Every single thing is being analyzed and pulled apart. And of course, when you think about it in terms of, if that's how you are operating, if that's what is driving you, then probably the language you use, be it verbally or in your body, is constantly conveying messages to the other people or person, and people will pick up on that. They may not be able to pinpoint it, they may not have anything to actually pinpoint, but it's just like it may even feel aggressive to somebody else. I'm just thinking about it now myself. For somebody else, it may feel like, wow, why is this person not trusting anything that I say? Why are they questioning everything that I do? And of course, if you're in that environment where somebody's doing that, it's just like, I don't need this. I mean, literally you'd be thinking, I don't need this. And you would be pulling away, stepping away from. So that causes that isolation then, that feeling of loneliness is, nobody's to be trusted. Every time I interrogate people to make sure that they're okay, this is what they do. They end up backing away. That's because they've got something to hide. So there's this constant pulling away on both sides. And like I said, that one, it must be exhausting, but actually frustrating when you don't recognize it in yourself, when you don't understand that's what you're doing, and that's why you're getting the reaction that you're getting.
It's like you're fact checking constantly, so you can't take anyone anyone's word for anything. So but to you, probably it seems like very logical, because how else will you make sure that you are safe?
Indeed.
How else will you make sure that you really got the right information from that person? And it can be like absolutely crazy going on and on and on like this. But I don't know. I would love to hear from the people that might see like a little bit of that in themselves, and tell us what what it is, how they're managing this. Because it is one thing to want to ensure that you got the facts right, and that you have the right information, or that you can work with what somebody else is telling you. But and it's another thing to just not being able to move one step unless you have everything checked against whatever else the other person is telling you, or has told you, or whatever is doing.
I mean, literally, as you were talking, then I just imagined somebody with like this checklist of things, and everything. If it hasn't got a tick, then it's not all right. Everything must have that tick, otherwise it's not all right. But again, as we always say with all saboteurs, let's be very clear that underneath the hyperness of this, so we're talking hyper-vigilant, not vigilant. So being a vigilant person has so many bonuses, very sensitive, probably very aware of danger and situations that don't feel quite right, probably really are very good at tuning into those things. So when we talk about hyper-vigilant, we need to understand that this is like that at an extreme level. So they're like the whole other level, whereby literally every single thing is seen as dangerous or a risk, somebody not being truthful, so you're constantly on guard. And of course, that's going to be detrimental in professional and personal relationships, clearly.
Absolutely. And the thing is that like there must be somewhere in your life that you need to let your guard down. You need to accept that, okay, the people that are around me are trustworthy, and I can absolutely be who I want to be with them. If that's not available to you, then you're missing out a very big part of being human, and being part of like a system, or whatever else that we all like to be part of. So
yeah actually, I was just thinking, and just then it was just like, so when we talk about permission to thrive, when we talk about our community, and knowing that we have this amazing tool that we can work with, regardless of what your saboteur is, that this amazing tool that can really help you to quieten those voices down and really step into your wisdom, your sage, whatever words we want to use around that. However, it just clicked to me that actually if somebody's hyper vigilant, what community would they feel safe stepping into, right? Because they've got to somehow bypass this in order to even give themselves the opportunity to start exploring this, which is why we really encourage everyone to do the assessment, Because if this comes up for you and you think, wow, it may be for the first time you get to think, wow, this has been getting in the way of me doing many things and having many relationships, professionally and personally. I need to do something about it. That may be the thing, and taking that and not being offended by it, because that's almost like the easiest route to do when you do the assessment, is like you're offended by the results and you think, no, I did it, so I'm just saying. However, when you are accepting of it and thinking, okay, this does need to be addressed. I can see now how this has impacted me previously and currently, and that this needs to be done. So for somebody who's hyper-vigilant, to be and I want to say courageous enough to enter a community, that's like a massive step, because that is already saying, for all the things that I am probably feeling, and there is high anxiousness within me right now, I want to get past this, and I need to find a place where there is a degree of safety for me to start exploring that. And I think that's something that we really want Permission to Thrive to be able to offer, to, regardless of what saboteurs come up for you, to understand that if you're ready and willing to do some work, then you can absolutely change these dialogues and these narratives that are running through you, and that you can remove yourself from this constant state of feeling on guard and not trusting, thus being alone a lot
Absolutely.
of the time.
And the thing is, the great thing about the work within our community is that it is up to you. One, and the other thing is that it is like backed by evidence, which is great for people like the hypervigilance, that they need facts, they need to understand, they need to, have evidence. So I think that is a great way of at least getting that first step in the confidence that, okay, I am being courageous, because it takes courage. It does take courage, not only for the hypervigilance. I think anyone to start working on themselves. But at least I'm dealing with something that I can understand, and it's not like I'm taking somebody else's word. I am the one that is doing the work. I am the one that is seeing the results and producing the results. And I think that is going to be a big game changer for a lot of the ladies in our community. Because some of you also might have hypervigilant, like in the first 5 saboteurs. So there might be that sense there somewhere. And it is nice to work through the system, because you can work with all the saboteurs and make sure that they're not taking over at any part of your life, which is I think very important.
Definitely. And I think, so when we think about what can somebody who has the hypervigilant do for themselves, to, even as a starting point, is really to cultivate a level of self-safety. So what do I need to do to feel safe myself? Because everything starts here. And I think in my work, certainly in when I think about self-care, etc., things like grounding exercises, doing deep breathing, coming back and recentering and coming back to self, are great for calming your nervous system. If you feel calm, you're far more likely to have a sense of being open to things. If your nervous system is all a jangle, bang, 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 then that resistance is high. So really, I think there is definitely a need to cultivate self-safety. What do I need to do to feel safe myself? How do I ground myself? how much breathing do I need to do to make sure that I can keep my nerves in check? And it sounds, these sound very simple things to do, but actually when you're in a highly anxious state, that's work. It feels like work. The bonus part of that, though, is that if you do it and you do it consistently, you start to get the results. So it's all that consistency. What do you think would be something that somebody who is hypervigilant could do to help themselves?
I think that, like the first step in positive intelligence, which is like coming back to self, and coming back to your body. I think that is the first and the best step that for any one of us to take at any point when we have the awareness that something is not like as we want it, or there is something that's pulling us that it's not necessarily us. It's all us, but what I'm trying to say is like not the saboteur.
Yes.
But that's what I think. It's like taking that first step, whether it is like concentrating on your breath or taking doing some what we call picky reps, but like something that brings you back to your body. Anything, and it takes 2 seconds really to get back to understand, how you can be here now at this particular moment, and start from that point to analyze what's going on, and decide whether you want to be the spectator of the moment or you want to take action as like an aware being of the situation. I think that's for anyone, any saboteur, any situation, that's the best way to deal with it.
I agree. I mean, coming back to I will always say, come back to self, come back to body, come back here, tune in, get a sense and a feeling in here, because it brings you to the moment. And actually, when you're, the more you practice it, the more you get connected to yourself. You'll see how the ability to switch off all the signals and all the stuff that's going on, it is doable when you come back in and you start focusing inwards. But it takes practice, as does anything. So when we talk about PQ reps, these really simple exercises that you get to do, techniques that you get to practice, are constantly just building that muscle for you to be able to come back to self, calm the body down, calm the mind down, come back to me. And then I can look at what's really happening as opposed to what I was assuming was happening in a state of fear, anxiousness, and stress and all of those things. I think also there is a need for the hypervigilant to rebuild trust gradually, and not expecting to go from here to there. Like today I don't trust anyone, tomorrow I'll trust everyone. This is not likely to happen. If it does, fantastic. Absolutely. But I'm just saying it's unlikely. But just to start with those little micro things. How can I show this person that I trust them? Whatever that little thing is that I can do. Like when they say X to me, I'm gonna maybe for the first time accept that, yes, that is so, and see what happens, and just keep on building on that, just having those little steps each time. And I said, and again, not over expecting on yourself that you're suddenly going to go from, right, I've been in this state and I don't trust anyone, and suddenly now you're going to just trust everyone and it's all going to be rosy and wonderful. And you probably don't want to do that either, because again, looking at your strengths, you want to be able to discern what is safe and what is not, what is dangerous and what is not. So you kind of want to have you want to keep that vigilance. You just don't want it to be on hyper.
Absolutely. And like you did say, mention that fear is like something that can really take over for any of us. You don't have to be a hyper-vigilant for fear to take over. I just believe that with the hyper-vigilance, probably fear is like the most important of the senses or the feelings that's coming up, because it is because of fear that you are keeping yourself to yourself, or you are making sure that nobody's going to hurt you, making sure that no situation is going to hurt you, and whatever, which is really a utopic scenario, because we all get hurt at some point. There are situations we cannot control that we don't particularly like, and so on and so forth. So, why do we have to preempt that everything that is coming our way is something that we need to be afraid of? That is the point. And I don't believe that fear is a very good consultant most of the times, if that's a good way of addressing fear. It is for the hypervigilant, as you said, it's just like little steps to make sure that I can trust a little bit more, but also accepting that there is a possibility that there is going to be a setback, and somebody that you might be thinking that I can trust now. They proved that they're not trustworthy, and then that shouldn't really take you back to being hyper vigilant, because one exception to the rule doesn't necessarily become the rule. That's Indeed. What it is.
Indeed. And I think the other part of that is also being open to challenging negative assumptions. So when you are assuming things about someone or something, or something that was said, to be aware enough to question that. Why is that? Why do I feel that way? Why is that coming up for me? What is it that person has said, or what is it that person's doing that's making that come up in me, right? Because it's what's happening to you, because the other person could be completely just telling you it as it is, but for whatever it is, it's triggered something in you. So being able to be aware of that and actually looking at those negative assumptions that are coming up and being able to say, okay, that is coming up for me. What is it that I'm seeing or hearing that's making that come up for me? And have I seen it somewhere before? And is that why it's coming up for me? Or is this something different? So again, that's coming back to self. Again, having to come back to self.
Yeah, 100%. I completely understand. I mean, hear what you're saying, and I can see how it can show up. But the bottom line is, if you have seen yourself in what we're discussing, or slightly see yourself in what we're discussing, first step, take the assessment, and second step, be kind to yourself and see why potentially something like this can be holding you back, or why this is like the loudest voice that you hear in your head. There are reasons for things like that. So, it's nice to understand them, know them, be aware, and start taking steps to rectify them, or if rectify them, I don't particularly use them to our advantage in a good way rather than not.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not a good feeling to feel alone just because of that.
No, it's not. And I think also because you feel alone, there's also that impact on the other people who want to get to know you, who want to be in that space, who want to support you, but then they literally feel like they can't, because it doesn't matter what they say or what they do. There's something about what you say and do that pushes them away. So, that is definitely something that you would want to address, because in addressing it, it means that you would have the ability to build better relationships, more meaningful relationships. Doesn't mean to say that you have to give up the strength that you have in able to discern what feels right and what doesn't. It just means that you're not assuming everything is, that everything's an attack, that everything is an issue, that everything is a problem. And that for me also gives you space to expand, because every time, if you see everything as a threat and everything as an issue and everything as a problem, you're also making your world really small. And you're not here to be small. You're here to expand. You're here to be all of who you are. So this is an opportunity to give yourself that space to do just that. And that, again, is another reason why we have permission to thrive, because we want expansion. We want to see like the brilliance that is within unlocked and released into the world. The world probably needs it. You may not know it. You may not even necessarily feel it, but it probably does need it.
Definitely. And I mean, it's nice to see a lot of women working together and seeing this type of results. And what they can do with the results is limitless, really, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. So so if I would love to, as Evie said earlier, if this has resonated with you in any shape or form, would love to hear from you or see something in the comments, just to have a sense of, how does that sit with you, but also to go and do the assessment. And again, as Evie said, do it with kindness. So this is not an opportunity to get results and then beat yourself up, or or to think that you're a bad person. To be able to just do it and see the results and be able to just glean another level of awareness, and then decide, well, now that I know that, what do I want to do with that? And it may be that you want to reach out to one of us and have a call and have a talk through the results. It may be that you think, well, maybe I need to be looking at a community, in which case, permission to thrive, sitting here right and ready for you. Again, you can book a call with us using the QR codes, and we're here. Or it may be something else. The whole point is, whatever comes up for you is that you have an awareness now and an ability to do something about it.
Absolutely. That's it. That's the first step always, isn't it? Having that awareness.
Yeah, 100%. Fabulous.
Thank you, Yvonne.
Thank you, Evie, as always. Thank you to anyone who popped in to listen or was watching this on replay. Thank you so much. Any comments, welcomed, always. And we will be back next week, I believe. And just as a reminder, we have also been posting about our next live event, which is next week, Tuesday, the 25th at 6:30 p.m. We are posting about it, so you can see either of our feeds. It's there. Or again, QR code us and we'll get the details to you. And we had such a great one last week, Evie? I don't know. Time's gone so quickly. I don't even know what's going on right now. I think it was. Seriously, am I even here today? So another one coming up next week. So an opportunity to be with us and experience the power and the joy of having space held for you, where you are heard, where you are seen, without anyone trying to fix you, and also being able to connect with other women who may be having similar experiences, and actually get that sense of, or that reminder that, it's not just me. It's not just me. That came up quite a lot for us last week. So we really kind of invite you to come along to that if you can make it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. See you next week.
See you next week.